Hey guys, so we're down here in the dungeon today because I got a very special guitar recently. I'm going to do a separate video on that guitar, but the reason we're down here today is because I had to build a case for that guitar, this case, and I wanted to show you guys, kind of walk you through what I did. Not really an instructional video or anything like that, but just go through the steps I did. Talk about the pros and cons of building your own case. I hope you guys like it. If you have any comments, please leave them in the comments. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer any questions. But this is the case I built. This is the guitar I built it for. This is a 1984 or 85 Stinger X16. I bought a very similar guitar to this when I was very young, my first real guitar that I bought for myself, and I lost it. And 37 years later, I found one. And so I had to make a case for it. So I made this beautiful plushy case. So stick around and check it out, and I hope you guys like it.
Okay, so obviously you have to build a box, and for that you need wood. Probably could have used a bunch of scraps from the shop, but I went out and got some new wood just to make it clean and nice. And when I was measuring this, I somehow ended up with a box that was a 1/4 inch narrower than I was planning, which caused me some issues later. And we'll get into that. Um, I decided not to do just butt joints. I decided to do some overlap there, a little fancier, hopefully a little stronger. So off to the router table we go. And then put it all together, glue it, clamp it. And for the tops or sides, I used 1/4 inch plywood. I've seen some cases with like eighth inch wood. I don't know; those seem rather flimsy to me, but 1/4 inch is good. It's nice and strong. Doesn't add too much weight. So cut those out and lots of glue. Glue, glue, glue. I threw in some nails. Probably overkill for this, but I do want it to just be as strong as possible and not come apart. And flush cut the edges. And I also did a round over, which I don't have on camera. You can see it here. It's small, smallest round over. So I probably could have done something more dramatic here. I just didn't want straight, sharp edges coming around those corners. So voila, we have a box. This is my first attempt to cut out uh, the cradle, as you will. Um, I'm doing this on 1 inch piece of foam, and I actually need it to be two. Oh, some ASMR for you. Like I was saying, I did need this to be 2 inches, and I tried cutting separate 1 inch pieces. They didn't really line up very well. So what do we have here? Uh, this was the original neck cradle. Um, we didn't use that piece. Oh my. No comment. So yeah, once I joined the two 1 inch pieces of foam together, it was off to the bandsaw because that was going to be the easiest way to cut through all of that. Um, I did use this kind of styrofoam insulation stuff. It's fairly rigid. I think it's going to last. This case is not going to get a huge amount of use. I won't be, pulling the guitar in and out of this every day or anything like that. So I think it'll last. We'll see. Um, with the faux fur and everything. It's pretty solid in there. Oh, the Tolex. So this was the part I was dreading. Never done this before. I can't use spray adhesive in this space. It's not very well ventilated and it would stink up the whole house. So I ended up using specialized Tolex glue. I believe it's latex based. It's pretty easy to use. Similar to spray adhesive, like you roll it on, you wait for it to dry, and then you put the two pieces together and you got some working time to manipulate everything. I don't actually show wrapping the lid because my roller broke and it was a bit of a disaster. But this is the first corner I ever did in Tolex, and I think it looks pretty good. I think it came out okay for the first time, especially. So here's where I'm applying the liner or the insert into the top of the case. I don't show it where I applied the faux fur to the 1-inch foam pad. And again, I can't use spray adhesive. Probably would have been easier. I did test gluing all these different surfaces together on some trial pieces before I did this, and they're all solid adhesion there. Ooh, nice and soft. And then here's the final result on the lid. I think it looks pretty good. All the edges are clean. Beautiful. Take it away. So now we're going to work on the lower part of the case. I did have some trouble cutting this box in two. I have a very small table saw. Don't have a lot of outfeed room. I don't have that on film. It was, I will say, fairly dangerous. I do not recommend it, and I'm not going to show you how I did it. But here I am just painting the corners just in case that Tolex doesn't want to comply. So we're not going to see that bare wood sticking through any oopsies that I do in the corners. Now we cut out the Tolex. I've marked it off. And we're going to put some more glue on there. I think I'm getting a little better at it, though I tried to use a brush for this part and it wasn't good. So back to the roller we go. It's always good to have the right kind of tools. It makes things a lot easier to do the job. Roll it out. I used a little bit more than I did on the lid because I had some bubbling issues. And now I'm off camera painting the bottom of the case. And so we are literally watching glue dry. It's not as exciting as watching paint dry. But there it is. You can see it. The cloudiness is going away. Soon it will be ready. Here we go. Nice and tacky. Start to put things together. Whoa! Yeah. Yeah. Not for the faint of heart, this stuff, but fairly easy to work with, I guess. So here I have the right tool. I have a very good roller now. It's doing a very good job. Like I said, the first roller on the lid broke within like 10 seconds of trying to use it, and then I had nothing. So I had to figure out a way to roll out the Tolex on the lid. This is much better. You can see I get nice sharp corners, getting in all those air bubbles out. Heck of a lot easier with this tool than the cheap plastic one. So it's looking good. We roll that over, and I was thinking of just doing one end at a time. So I started putting the glue on there, and then I realized I'm going to have to fold that long edge corner over anyway, like that. And if I just glue that part, then I'm going to have trouble getting the glue on the rest of it. So I just decided I'm just going to pre-glue the whole thing. This Tolex glue is pretty good. It takes about 30 minutes until it's dried enough that you can start sticking stuff together. But once things start sticking together, then it becomes a game against the clock, I think. And one thing I would say here is be careful not to use too much, because if any of it pools in the edges and creases, and it's not quite dry when everything else is, then don't get it in your beard. It's no good. Um, yeah, if it's pooling and stuff and it's still not quite, if you still see cloudiness or white, in the creases, you're going to have trouble with bubbling up later. And I did have that in a couple places. Um, but in general, it went pretty well for the first time doing this. I don't know if I would do it again, but here we go with the edges. And so you can see that, you start to get one edge together, but a little further down, it's sticking to the side and you're going to have to pull it out later. So I'm using a bit of super glue there, just on those tight corners, and Tolex doesn't like to stick to itself, so the super glue helps with that. Again, this roller tool was really great. Helped me get sharp edges, uh, and really mat that stuff down. But you can see you have to wrestle with it, and every time you do something, there's a new wrinkle somewhere, and you got to find it. I think at this point, by these last two corners, I was getting pretty good at it. I think if I did another one, it'd probably be better for sure. I don't think I would do another one. I might paint it with the speaker paint. I was looking into that, and I thought it might be um, cheaper to do, but everything in this project was expensive. So my hands are pretty cramped at this point from tugging on all that Tolex and trying to hold on to it and wrap it around, and everything's sticky. And I don't know, guys that wrap, speakers for a living. Good for you, man. You're heroes. I couldn't do this all day. All right, now the fun stuff. So that gray foam on the bottom there is about a 1/4 inch. It's just there to cushion the bottom of the guitar. Again, I can't use spray adhesive, so I'm gonna butter in all this glue. Um, I've seen lots of videos of people doing this stuff, and where they've use spray adhesive on the whole insert, and then try to get all the fabric in at the same time, and just wrestle with it and trying to get it in there. So I decided I'm just going to do the bottom and let that dry. Make sure you have enough to, sink in there and still get yourself to the edge. But I'm just going to put that in the bottom. And I taped up the whole guitar on the bottom so the glue wouldn't get on the finish. And I figured that's probably the best way to hold everything in place, is why not put the actual piece that's going to be in there. And so then the bottom was dry. I'm coming along here and I'm just kind of buttering up the side parts and then spreading it out on the top. And I'm just going to do one section at a time. This glue is a fast grab fabric glue. And so as you put the fabric down on it, it will stay there. So it's not slippery. It really helps, so you're not fighting fabric just sliding around and moving all over the place. It's pretty tacky. So, and you can still move it around. You still got, lots of time to kind of play with it, move it around. So I got that part nice and smooth. Back goes the guitar for that to dry. Then we come back, and now I'm working on that right side. And same process. So just butter that up. And you can see that, in the horns or pointy parts on the guitar there, um, that fabric wanted to bunch up. And again, this is where that, the tackiness of the glue really helps, because the fabric does stretch. And so you can pull it where you kind of need it to go, and it'll stay there. So you can pull out the wrinkles, um, and it should stay where you put it. So there's another piece done. And I'm going to throw the guitar back in. You see there, I was like stretching it out. It's a pretty snug fit. I think it's going to be great. It's going to hold that guitar really well. There we go. More cake decoration skills here. And I think that styrofoam was pretty good. it soaked in a little bit, but pretty much stayed on the surface. And I did test all of these materials together. So the foam to the wood, and the wood to the foam, and the foam to the foam, and the fabric to the foam. And everything sticks really well with this stuff. So I'm glad I didn't have to deal with spray adhesive. It just took a little longer doing it this way. And you have to butter it out, because if you just leave a bead in there, when it dries, you'll be able to feel it through the fabric. So this way it feels very smooth. It's not hard. It doesn't really soak through. And you can see where I am now. So in that neck pocket, there's a bunch of foam that's supporting the neck. But there is still some space under there. So what I was doing was putting the extra fabric that was bunching up, and I was kind of pushing it into that spot temporarily, just so I could glue the rest of it down. And this part was harder to get to because everything else is glued, so it doesn't move around. So you kind of have to get creative, getting to all the spots in there. But you'll be able to see where I kind of push that fabric into the slot where the neck goes temporarily. Yeah, right there. And so that allowed me, that was like a really wrinkly part, right there. So once I got that fabric in there, and then I put the guitar back in, then I could really pull on that last section and stretch out that fabric. And that was where one of the worst wrinkles was. And I managed to get it all out. Like, it looks great. I came in later and cut out all that extra fabric underneath the neck, and then just tucked it in. You can see at the bottom of the guitar, like I've tucked in the fabric there. We'll get back to that. So one last big piece of fabric. I did consider kind of extending the neck support. I thought about putting in, a little cubby for accessories and stuff. But this case really isn't gonna. I'm not going into any gigs with this guitar. Like, it's just a special guitar. I wanted to keep it safe at home, so I didn't bother. I have the whammy bar. That's all I got to put in there. It's not like I'm going to be carrying strings and cables and stuff. So I didn't bother with that. It made it easier. So this piece just fit right in. Those pieces that are coming up the edge are going to get cut off. And so then I have to fill that in with some panels that are covered. Here are the panels. These originally were supposed to go the whole length of the case and stick out a little bit from the bottom, so that when the lid closed, there was a bit of a seal there. But because the case was narrower, I couldn't fit those in with the guitar as well. They just wouldn't have fit. So I'm just doing them here because that bottom piece, when you cut these edges, you can see there's a mess everywhere. This stuff just fluffs up. You can't leave like those cut edges exposed anymore. You have to tuck them behind something, tuck them under something, or in this case, I'm wrapping them around. And these panels will slide in, and they'll cover the edges of that piece that I just put in before this, so that we don't get that mess in the case. This glue's really good. Like I said, it's a fast grab. Like I just buttered it on those pieces of wood, and it's already holding it. You can see I just put it on here, flip it over, and it holds it fine. You don't even have to clamp it or do anything with it. It'll just dry that way. I got pretty good by this one. Away we go. Okay, so that's how they pop in. I think it makes a little bit more sense now. Looks great. So last step for this was to glue those in. I decided I was going to use no more nails because I wanted kind of a thicker bead, something that holds a little stronger than wood glue, because the wood to wood contact is kind of, you can see that the fabric pushes the wood away from itself. So I thought I would use something stronger. Now, the one thing I forgot was that it takes, that stuff grabs instantly, but it takes 12 hours to cure. So I was hoping to finish this whole case on this day, but obviously that didn't happen because of all these clamps are in the way. Um, and I ended up putting all the hardware on off camera. So the hinges and the locks and stuff and the handle and the corner pieces. So I don't have that on camera. It's not that exciting. It's just hardware. Uh, but these pieces were fun. I think it finishes it off. It finishes that edge, of the bottom piece. It makes it nice and tidy. I kind of wish I'd been able to go all the way through and have that seal around the case, but again, like it's just sitting in an office. It's not going anywhere. And so we let it dry. And voila, this is it, a thing of beauty. It holds that guitar really well. It's not too tight. The lid closes perfect. It doesn't push down on anything it shouldn't. Super happy. So if you enjoyed this, leave a comment. If you have a question, I'm happy to answer any questions. It was a fun project, and thanks for watching.